Welcome back everyone to another Origins video. These shorter explorations are something new we've started, allowing us to dive into the incredible history and lore of Gilinor's many fascinating races. Today we'll uncover the origins of an incredibly peaceful race, the Ilujanka. Hailing from the misty marshlands of Aya, their story is one of harmony, tragedy and resilience. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you. What origins or stories about Gilinor's many races do you want to see explored next? Please do drop your suggestions down in the comments below. Now without further ado, let's step into the world of the Ilujanka. Aya was a world of balance. Its people, the Ilujanka, were craftsmen, farmers, caretakers, living quiet lives in harmony with the land. Their marshes teemed with life, and among the most revered were the Gurs, majestic, dragon-like creatures as ancient as the marshes themselves. The bond between the Ilujanka and the Gurs ran deep. These mighty creatures entrusted the care of their eggs to the Ilujanka, who guarded them with devotion. In return, the Gurs lent their strength, pulling ploughs across the fertile wetlands. It was a relationship of trust and mutual need woven into the very fabric of their existence. But their bond was more than physical. Through a gift unique to their kind, the Ilujanka could share their thoughts, memories and emotions with the Gurs, forming a connection that transcended words. In these tranquil marshes, there was no conflict, no hunger, and no fear. Only the rhythm of life, guided by the Ilujanka's unshakable belief in the Olun'det, the great tapestry of fate. At the heart of the Ilujanka culture lay the Olun'det, belief that all events unfolded as part of a preordained design. Each Ilujanka played their own role in this grand pattern. This was known as the Olun'det. It was this philosophy that shaped their view of the world and their own place within it. To the Ilujanka, no creature was lesser, no role insignificant. Their fate was intertwined with that of their Gurs and the marshlands themselves. Even in the face of death, they saw no need for despair, for they believed their purpose was to prepare the world for the creatures that would come after them. But fate, though often kind, is not always merciful. In time, the Ilujanka began to notice a change. The marshes remained lush, the Gurs thrived, but their people grew fewer. Birth, once celebrated with song, became rare, then almost non-existent. Unbeknownst to them, the anima of Aya, the life force that sustained all things, had shifted. Where once it was pure, now it was pristine. To most, the change was imperceptible, but to the Ilujanka, it was catastrophic. Their bodies could no longer absorb the anima efficiently, and their numbers dwindled with each passing year. Their philosophy of the Olun'det taught them to accept their fate, and so they did. With grace, they prepared for the end, not with defiance, but with a quiet dignity, trusting that their purpose had been fulfilled. Yet even as their faith held strong, hope flickered in the hearts of a few. It was in their darkest hour that he came, a shadow among shadows, stepping from the storm with a voice like a whisper carried on the wind. Zaros, the empty lord, had arrived. Zaros spoke of a cure, a way to save their race from extinction. All he asked in return was their loyalty and their willingness to leave behind the only world they had ever known. His words were a lifeline, a promise of survival, but they were also a choice. To stay on Aya meant certain death. To follow Zaros meant abandoning their home, their culture, and their bond with the Gers. Faced with such a choice, the Ilujanka turned to their faith. Perhaps this too was part of the Olun'det. And so, the Ilujanka made their decision. Led by Zaros, they stepped through the portal into a world unlike any they had ever known. Gielinor, a land of gods and dragons, where their story would take a new and unexpected turn. Now, as most of you know, the goal was to have an origin and a story in separate videos. However, the origins of the Ilujanka is so short that I've decided to combine the two scripts together. If you happen to enjoy having the origin and the story combined, then I'll do this more often. But once again, do let me know in the comments below. Let's move on to the story segment of the Ilujanka's journey. On Gielinor, the Ilujanka found new purpose. Their affinity for bonding with creatures honed on Aya with the Gers allowed them to tame the mighty dragons of this strange world. These fearsome beasts became their mounts, their companions, and their weapons of war. Zaros, ever the strategist, saw their potential and elevated them to an elite force in his empire. The Ilujanka became dragon riders, a name that struck terror into the hearts of Zaros' enemies. Yet even as their legend grew, their numbers dwindled. Despite their plea, Zaros did not fulfill his promise to cure their infertility, claiming he required the power of an elder god to do so, a power he would only acquire only after the war was won. But loyalty to Zaros was not absolute. As desperation took hold, Zamorak, Zaros' most trusted general, sought to exploit their plight. He approached the remaining dragon riders, offering to fulfill Zaros' promise if they joined him in overthrowing the Empty Lord. The proposal divided them. Morvanan and Apropos, tempted by the promise of salvation, aligned themselves with Zamorak. Balistan and Ablenkian, steadfast in their faith, resolved to warn Zaros of the plot. Hannibus, ever cautious, chose neutrality, believing survival lay in remaining uninvolved. But betrayal runs deep. Despite her oath to Zamorak, Morvanan was torn apart by his followers. Her dragon, Gorvek, arriving too late to save her. It was amidst this carnage that Gorvek discovered a single egg, hidden and intact, a fragile hope in the face of extinction. From that egg hatched Vindicta, a warrior forged in fire and vengeance. Raised by Gorvek in the grotworm lair, she grew to be larger and fiercer than any Ilujanka before her. Gorvek trained her in the ways of the Dragon Riders, teaching her to wield her mother's armor and weapons with deadly precision. With her mother's death burning in her heart, Vindicta vowed to avenge the Ilujanka. Her path led her to the heart of Gielinor, where she confronted the Twin Furies. Though her grudge lay solely with them, the heart had become a battleground, drawing others into the fray. Gorvek, Vindicta's loyal companion, was no ordinary dragon. An outlier among his own kind, his past was as storied as any warrior's. During the Second Age, he served in Zaros' 10th Legion, enduring the horrors of the fungal entity Croesus, which devoured entire cities before Zaros intervened. A survivor in every sense, Gorvek brought that same resilience to his bond with Vindicta. Together, Vindicta and Gorvek became a force of nature, their bond unshakable, their determination unyielding. They fought not just for revenge, but for the future of their dying race. In the 6th Age, Vindicta's path crossed with Hannibus, her estranged father. Initially dismissive of him and the Ilujanka who had resigned themselves to extinction, he soon recognized the shared burden they carried. Their reunion marked the beginning of a new chapter, one of rebuilding and hope. Vindicta's leadership inspired a new generation of Ilujanka to leave Aya, settling on Gilinor's Anachronia. Here, they carved out a future alongside dragons, rekindling the spirit of the dragon riders. But even as they forged a new home, Aya faced its final reckoning. Seren, blinded by her desire to protect the elder gods, brought their eggs to Aya to hatch, dooming the planet. Vindicta, refusing to accept defeat, led efforts to evacuate as many Ilujanka as possible, ensuring their survival even as their ancestral home was destroyed. The story of the Ilujanka is one of resilience and defiance. From the ashes of betrayal and near extinction, they rose again, carrying the legacy of the Dragon Riders into a new age. Through figures like Vindicta and Gorvek, their spirit endures, a testament to a race that refuses to fade into history. They started out as one of the most peaceful races we know, connected to the anima itself. Look how far they've come. Beneath all their strife and hardship, there remained a quiet, wondrous gift that set the Ilujanka apart. Their ability to resonate with the very anima of creation. Just as they once shared memories, thoughts and feelings with Gers on Aya, and later with dragons on Gilinor. This gift was never strictly limited to these creatures alone. It was a harmony woven into their being, a whisper of understanding carried on each breath of life around them. Yet not all bonds are easily forged. Metal dragons, hardened by torment, shaped by suffering, resisted this gentle communion. Their pain formed barriers, thick as steel, and though the Ilujanka could sense their anguish, bridging that chasm required patience, empathy, and perhaps more time than their fragile race could afford. In the hush between wars and wanderings, the Ilujanka's ability to share their innermost selves with the world around them stood as a quiet reminder of their origin. No matter where they roamed, be it Aya's marshes or Gilinor's distant frontiers, this gift lingered, an enduring promise that understanding and unity could be found if both sides dared to listen. If you would like to see a video covering more specific things like Hannibus's journey individually, let me know in the comments below. Until next time, as always, I will see you all in Gilinor.